All right, so here are my trades for today, Tuesday, the 23rd. I traded XPEV here at the open. Um, you can see here on the daily, we had a bit of a range here created. We had a previous top here at 48, and then for the last few weeks, we've created a pretty decent range here with the top being $50 even, just a little bit above. So price had been trying to break above 50. You can see here it tried to, then came down, but you can see that after it failed at 50, it didn't sell all the way down. Came back up, tried again, and then again today. It had good news, and was opening right around here at 49, and eventually broke 50. So it was in play. It did have high RVOL, had crazy RVOL. It was a stock worth trading, and we did have a good level. I think this 50 was almost a 10 out of 10 level. I think it just ended up being kind of a crazy stock because I think because of the RVOL. The RVOL, after about 20 minutes into the open, RVOL got from 3 to about 9, so or 8, somewhere in like the 800 900%. So here you can see what it did. So this was pre-market. So you can see here that 50 was that big level, right? And so it was in play. There was news. You can see here that pre-market was hovering up here by the $50 area, came down to 48, but then bounced right back up. So it was getting ready. And if you look at the 5 minute, that pre-market probably looks a little bit better. Yeah, you can see it looks a little more compressed and cleaner, and like I said, compressing up against that 50. But what happened at the open was kind of tricky because it immediately sells off all the way down to 47.50, and I thought that maybe because this had high RVOL right here, these first 3 minutes, um, the RVOL was 300%. So I was thinking, oh man, 50 was a fail. It was a failed breakout. It's more of a sell the news. This was indeed a good level, and so it's going to go the opposite way. It's going to bounce off of it and give us a really good move down. I thought all of that in those first 3 minutes, but then it turned right around, and then you can see here that volume picked up on the fourth minute and just got just super duper high compared to the first 4 minutes. I mean, just 5 times as much volume, 1.3 million. So it definitely changed there. That candle's where it changed. And then that's also the candle where it broke 50. So it's just a little bit of a different setup. I mean, we had high RVOL. We had sort of tested that 50 in the pre-market. So maybe it was a failed breakout and give a good short, but then immediately turns around. Volume then increases even more. Then it breaks through 50. Then we get up to about 8 RVOL. And now I'm thinking, okay, it is a long. It just trapped a lot of people or accumulated some more here. So then I looked at that as that was just the opening range. It breaks through 50 with the high breakout volume VPA. So I got long. But rewatching the tape, I mean, this was crazy to me. Just I feel like the spread was definitely fluctuating a lot throughout these few minutes, and just the price action was insane. I mean, it was because the RVO was so high. I feel like breakouts when they're like between a 1 and a 3 just seem to move a bit better in my opinion, but when they get into the territory of like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 plus, and there's that many people watching it, I just think it can get kind of insane, and it dampens it a bit. But anyway, so I did get long at 50. It was going kind of crazy, so I did back off a little bit, and then I added back in. And at this point, I was looking at, what's the ATR, etc. It had already moved one ATR going down and then back up to 50. This was a whole ATR right away. So I didn't like that. But, you know, when you duplicate the ATR, if you reset it at 50, which is normally what I do with breakout, especially when I get the VPA confirmation, I'm like, okay, this is a breakout, so you got to reset the ATR. So, but you could see here that within a few minutes, it had already gotten to 75% of another ATR. So I just started partialing heavy. It was pretty crazy in here. And then I got out of a lot of my position. So I added in, hoping, it looked like it was going to break again for another new high and kind of give us the move that we thought it was. And it did. And it ended up moving almost 2.5 ATR. Yeah, 2.5 ATR, all within first 20 minutes, and then it was done. Like you, another 10 minutes later, and you got one more little move to 54, and then it was done. That was the highest point. So that was pretty crazy. I mean, normally these breakout trades that I do don't happen that fast. Normally, just to get one ATR takes, the first half hour or less, and then to get another half of an ATR or more takes a good another hour or something, or maybe another half hour. So this was super condensed and intense. And so you can see here then that it did turn around. And I did try a few more times to free roll in here, and I think I tried to get in again. So I lost a little bit on that trying again part. But it never ended up getting back under 50 all day. So, oh, and wait, no, excuse me, it did. Okay, so it didn't there, and then it did eventually roll over. It did a bit of a head and shoulders and then got back above it and then held it pretty cleanly. And you can even see that some volume kind of kicked in at the end as it hovered above it and then it moved away. So it's kind of nice that it did hold 50 and eventually stay above it. So it ended up looking like a decent candle. Otherwise, it would have been a pretty intense shooting star, which would have been more of a fake breakout reversal setup. So I'm not really sure what this is. So yeah, I think the points that I brought up just makes it a little bit unique. The fact that it moved 2.5 ATR in 20 minutes, 8 RVol, some of those things I think can make it a bit more intense and a little trickier. But had I still been okay with that and known that, hey, above 50 is the breakout, I'm going to get heavy like I do every other breakout, as long as there's VPA, as long as it's a good 10 out of 10 level or 9 out of 10 level, I'm going to get heavy no matter what and risk 1, 2, or 3 units. If I would have done that, I would have been fine still. It just would have been a bit scarier. And this was 5 minutes into the open. So I also, I'm I'm not as fresh to 5 minutes into the open. So, yeah, so because of those reasons, that's how I traded that. I traded MU. So this was a good one because it's been in play ever since. Well, really, it's been in play once it sort of broke this $75, $76 because it was sort of trending down, making lower lows, lower highs, and then it made this final low and then got back above this low here. And then on top of that, it then gets above kind of this range here, right here, consolidates, and then boom, it's now really in play. And then some positive news starts coming out on it. So it's really in play here. It's more of an uptrend now. And then Monday was a really big shooting star, which you can get a couple different setups from that. You could get a daily pivot reversal. So if price somehow gets then underneath this low and it still has quite a bit of ATR left to go, you could get a nice short for a reversal. Or there's a lot of levels in here. So if it's somehow holding, you can get long potentially there. Or you can get a nice sort of short from up here, which is what we got. So yeah, you can see here there is a higher time frame resistance here at 83, and then even stronger here at 85, 86. It's a little bit general, but for sure there's a bunch of sellers here holding it down. You can see up here, back here, we had a bit of a wick too. So looking at the 30-minute, you can see here. This was yesterday. Nice wick. Actually, let's just look at the 5-minute because this is just, there's so many lines right now. I'm just going to get rid of all the lines. So here's the 5-minute, okay? Breakout 2 days ago. Another breakout, but then look at all the selling the rest of the day, and then pulls back and then sells even more. So you pretty much got a full move up and then a full move all the way back down. So clearly there's some selling pressure up here. Well, then today we're gifted with price coming all the way back up to this area. And then you look at the 5-minute, look at these crazy wicks. I think that's just a really good signal that, hey, these sellers are still pushing down here, and this thing is still exhausted for the time being. So there's lots of different ways you could have got in this, but you know, it was making sort of a compression here, or just a neckline there, and I just took the break of the neckline, and you got a decent short. Took a lot of the day to happen, but you can see here it did come down all the way to basically the main sell-off that it had yesterday. So yeah, right there, that's perfect. So that was a good, it was a good target. So I didn't get all the move, but so I'm a little upset about that, but that's all right. You can see here it did get down there. Would have just had to wait a few more hours. And yeah, so, and then the other trade I got was on AMD, which I liked. AMD really was just a low of day compression. ATR is 6.9. So there's your 6.9 right there. So this was the opening, goes down, comes up, starts to compress, see some weakness here. And then really right around here is when it starts to break down. So it breaks down before the low of day, and then it really breaks down right here. And so I just get in short, breaking the low of day, knowing that, hey, we still have a full 40% of its ATR to go. It was one RVOL. It was increasing though as it was selling off, so that gave me another confirmation to keep going. So I added in, and I got a really good trade here, almost a 6-unit made on this. Held a little bit, held this for a while, man. I was like, I walked away and went and ate food and watched a bit of a show just to take a break, and I noticed, hey, it's making an upwards compression now, which was a little bit unique. Sort of like a failed breakdown. So basically, price would have gotten back above. It would have been sort of what we like to see, which is like a failed break, and then it gets back above this level, and now it's a long. So really, this was a great level. This was created today with this compression. So you got a great level to work on. If you were long bias, you could have taken it long, you know, with a limit order to fill. Or in my case, I was short bias, so I really wanted to add in, and even though it was right, see, this was right at break even, so it was a little trickier to add in here. It was more like I'm just adding more shares and risking a bit more. But I should have just put in a limit order and got it filled and just put my stop a little bit above here, or maybe even risked a little bit above VWAP and tried it, because it did eventually break this trend line and it got back down to the low of the day. And I fought it a little bit here, which I do think that's worth it, trying that, because this level was created. This was a good level that it made. Clearly there was a seller keeping it down at 148.32 or 148.30. And then here you can see what ended up happening. It did get above this level later in the day, and that could have been a good long. So right here, you can see here it stopped, couldn't sell down anymore. hit a little bit of a bid, got above, held it. You could have gone long here for the breakout with the limit order or waited for the retest, gotten in here, gotten in a new 1 minute high, etc. And then gone for, really, you could have just gone for the 150 because it spiked right up to the 150 psychological level. So you could have gotten $1.50 move right here too. So I like that trade too. So it's a little bit, it's a little bit extended from all the way down here, but that's where I like these trades because I really understand, I know that this is the best level right now. And so risking around that level plus VWAP is in line with it. So that's almost a 10 out of 10 level for me as well. Sort of the opposite way, I traded it down here and then I would have longed it right here. So overall, not too bad. And then I gave some back on SPY today. Yeah, I just tried it one too many times, man. I just didn't, I don't know what I was. I mean, I should have just stuck with AMD because AMD I understood a lot more. So I should have just stayed with AMD, honestly. If the stock's working for you and it's moving and it's in play, and then if it's AMD, it's basically a market stock. Well, then you can kind of keep an eye on the SPY, and then SPY's moving. Well, then just trade the AMD because you're understanding that. So, as for other things like IWM here, I really like this doji that it created today. So you can see here that this was that really big range that it created, and bit of a pull. I mean, it was quite a pullback here over the last few, like 2 weeks. But, this was probably one of the last points to get down for a retest. You could have said, well, it retested sort of around 232, but then an even further retest would be this 230 mark, because that's really where it started to break out with volume. That was that first sort of resistance point that it broke out from. So really, we don't want to see price get under that and close under that and get any more further. So really, this is a really good retest. And honestly, if this ends up being a good long here, if this really does bounce like it should, or continue to go up, I mean, this is a just picture perfect retest. Another thing though about daily charts, as opposed to like a 5-minute chart, is that these retests aren't as clear, or they're not as perfect. And I need to remember that, because just because there's a perfect level here doesn't mean that price can't wick through it a bit more. I noticed that on daily charts, they can tend to wick through a bit more, or even close through a bit more, and it takes it a bit longer to kind of round through it and then go. So I really do need to give this some breathing room. I'm still in a put, or I sold some puts down here. I think it was, now I'm forgetting where it was, somewhere around here, with the idea that this is not going to come down. But those puts would be even more expensive today, or the last few days, because right now it's looking so weak. But with our technical analysis and our levels here, man, today's doji especially, even tomorrow, if tomorrow opens above the doji and we're looking like, hey, this thing is eventually turning around, or in a few days, like once we get extra confirmation that this thing is turning around, you could do another put, and you might lose a little premium if it does look, if it's already too far away. But if you can get it a little bit earlier, that premium will be a lot, and you'll have this sort of extra confirmation that, hey, this is definitely done selling down, it's going up again, and this premium will just be like free money in the bank. And I guess at the same time, if you wanted to, you could buy a call on IWM too. Really, buying a call on IWM would also be beneficial during the last few days. So if you're pretty certain that, hey, this thing is eventually going to bounce, or it's going to round, or go, it's going to take a few more days, it's going to get around, and then eventually go up, and say your target is, 240 or 244, 250, depending on your time frame, you could buy calls as it's going down, and they'll be a lot cheaper. And then you really get your bang for your buck, especially when this thing starts to turn around. That thing will be in the money so fast. So it just shows you how you know, people are so short-sighted. They're recency bias. I mean, the last few days the selling, it's just people get so scared, but really this is healthy for this, you know. If this just went up like that, sure, we would love that, but we would eventually want to pull back, and or we would say, well, this is almost climactic, you know, this needs a pullback. So really, I mean, we had 3, 4, 5, 6 days in a row making new highs. And what did it move? Let's see what the percentage was, you know, almost 7%. So this is good. This is a healthy pullback. And this is what you want to do. You want to buy the dips, you know. This is a breakout. If you believe in this breakout, you buy the dips, and your risk reward is so good because you got this bigger move potential, and you're risking just generally somewhere around here. If you look at like what IWM did in the past, so like here's a little bit of a breakout. You know, you got, let me look here for a second. So here's IWM a few years ago. Okay, so back in 2017, this was the highest point it had been, I'm pretty sure. And from 2016, end of 2016, we had a little pullback, and then we had a big, oh, this was after the election. So this was Trump. Trump became president here. So it sold off into the election, and then boom, once we kind of knew what we were dealing with, the stock market continued, moved up super fast, and then it created a channel here, right? And so created a channel for a while, almost the whole year, like 3/4 of the year. It was making highs, but not that much. And then, so we get a little bit of a breakdown from the channel, which sort of starts the change, because you know, normally when you get a trend line break, that normally can kind of ignite the move, whether it's to the downside or to the opposite side. So we get a kind of a break, we get back above, we get up to the channel, and so right here we're at the all-time high, and look, we break it. Big move, right? Great volume. That's a breakout, right? And then look, for multiple days after that, we get continuation. So we end up moving 4% there in a matter of 5 days. And then here's the pullback, right? Look, the pullback takes a lot longer. It takes like a month and a half. But look, it comes all the way back down to the breakout point. Even wicks down a little bit lower. Breakout was right around here. Wicks down even down here. And then look, this was an amazing entry because look at the moves there. I mean, gapping up, big green candles. Only took it half the time here than it did on the sell down. So that was really clean. We got breakout, pull back, retest, get long, boom. And I think that's what's going on now with IWM. Obviously, I could be wrong, but that just shows you how, you know, how it looks on the daily. And then look, it keeps going for another few months, and then we get this huge sell down. And look, it doesn't go that much further below that. Gets a little further there, and then even further there, but that would have been an amazing buying point. Amazing buying time there, because within a matter of a month, you would have made all of it. It would have all been worth it. You got right up to all-time high again. So it just shows you, buy the fucking dip. Use your technical analysis. Look at where breakouts happened, where the volume happened, and then remember that spot, because that spot is where new buyers and sellers exchanged and changed here. Boom, it holds. Boom, it holds again. It's just a little more intense here because this move down was really intense. So of course the wick is going to go down through, but it never even closed under here. So this would have been an amazing time to buy options here. Buy calls here would have been super cheap, and you would have made tons of money there. Or you could have just sold some puts down here or really low down here, made a bunch of premium knowing that, hey, this is hopefully this holds, and sure enough it did. So lots of money to be made there too.